Hey, Pete, buddy, old pal, old friend, I'm gonna have you do me a favor today, all right? Okay, I have full confidence in you. You're gonna host today's show. You're gonna tell all of our friends about everything that we watched in January, and pay attention now, you don't fall asleep. Everything that we watched in January and February. I know you can do it, buddy, okay? Did you get into my gummies or something? What the hell, dude? All right, I'll see you in an hour. All right, here, looks like I gotta do this myself, huh, Pete? I only look slightly homeless, so I think we're good, huh? Anyway. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Justin here, as always. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me today for another video. So I didn't do one of these last month. I didn't think I had enough to talk about, so I figured I'd do 2 months and just do a massive video of everything that I watched in January and February. And man, do I have a bunch of good titles to talk about. All kinds of different genres. I have horror, I have some comedy, even a couple romantic comedies in there, thrillers, all kinds of good stuff. Before we get started, we're gonna jump into these titles. Do me a favor, if you've watched a couple of my videos already, why don't you just subscribe? Help me out, help the algorithm out. Subscribe, like this video, subscribe to my other channel, The Dead Couch. That's my collecting channel where I talk about toys, collectibles, physical media, obscure B-movies, that type of thing. On this channel, I do movie news, reviews, trailer reactions, ranking videos, that kind of a thing. So help me out, join the team, and let's do this. Like this video, comment down below, all that good shit. Let's get into today's video. So we're gonna go ahead and dive into my Letterboxd diary. If you guys follow me on there, I will follow you back. It's a great way to keep track of everything you watched. And we're gonna go way back, which seems like so long ago, to January 3rd, and I watched a little movie called Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge. This is a ridiculous, low budget, sort of supernatural slasher movie that takes place in a mall. A pretty famous mall they've shot a bunch of different movies in this mall. This is gonna be for your super B movie, low budget horror fans and maybe Pauly Shore fans. I think this is either the first or second role that Pauly Shore ever got. He's super young in this movie. Not quite full Weasel yet, but it's still a fun early performance from Pauly Shore. This is basically Phantom of the Mall, this is basically Phantom of the Opera, but in a mall. This chick's boyfriend dies in the mall and he sort of lurks in the walls, killing off people that, you know, gave him shit in his previous life. It's a lot of fun, really absurd. Arrow Video has a really nice edition of this. I picked that up. You may still be able to pick up that limited edition, but if not, stream it. Pick up whatever you can because it's definitely worth a watch if you're into that type of thing. Next up, I remember this movie night. Next up, that same night, I also watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990. I had a buddy over and we had one too many gummies and we were high as shit. And we decided to watch fucking Ninja Turtles and it was amazing. I love that movie. I need to review all 3 of those movies and I will eventually. Corey Feldman does one of the voices. This is just hearkening back to the 90s when everything was still practical. You have a bunch of guys, highly trained dudes in fully animatronic Jim Henson Ninja Turtle outfits doing crazy shit. It's a lot of fun. I suggest watching it. And then we have a bunch of, I'm just gonna lump all these together because I have reviews for every single one of these, and that is the Scream movies, 1, 2, 3, and 4. All those reviews are up. I still need to review Scream 5, and I will get to that, but for my thoughts on all of these, you can check the link below, and I've linked all of those Scream review videos. Now, for the last thing I watched in January 30th, I watched Last Night in Soho. I have 2 videos where I talk about this movie. I reviewed the movie, of course. It was one of my favorite movies of the year. It's also on my top 10 movies of the year. I'll link both of those videos down below. I love this movie. Edgar Wright is a genius, and this is some of the best work he's ever done. Thomasin McKenzie plays a fashion student who relocates to Soho in London. She ends up staying at, renting a room at this old lady's house, and the first night she starts staying there, she has all these crazy visions, and she's essentially transported to another world back in 60s London. She gets wrapped up in all of this crazy, seedy underworld shit involving Anya Taylor-Joy's character. Their lives sort of meld together in this really trippy Odyssey horror giallo slasher mix. It's amazing. Highly stylized, beautiful direction by Edgar Wright, great soundtrack. I can't talk highly enough about Last Night in Soho. Next up, the Forever Purge. I think this is the most recent Purge movie. I gave this 1 star on here. I did not care about this. I wrote a full review on my Letterboxd there. I don't know. This whole franchise just seems pretty squandered to me. I really don't know what the hell was going on with that. I like the first movie. Honestly, I wouldn't suggest or recommend any of the other ones. That's just my personal opinion. A movie that I would recommend, however, is Relic from 2020. This movie was amazing. I absolutely love this movie. When Edna, the elderly and widowed matriarch of the family, goes missing, her daughter and granddaughter travel to their remote family home to find her. Soon after her return, they start to discover a sinister presence haunting the house and taking control of Edna. There's a bunch of good actors in here, but the only one I really knew or I had seen before is Emily Mortimer. She and her daughter move into her mother's house after she goes missing for a few days. After they're there for a couple days, her mother just suddenly, randomly shows up in the house with seemingly no recollection to where she's been, and this whole situation spirals out of control. And no bullshit, has one of the most insane ending sequences. It's equal parts gross and also kind of beautiful. I don't want to give anything away because this movie kind of blew me away, and it was something that I was absolutely not expecting, you know, where it went at the end. Definitely check out Relic. I gave it 3.5 stars, so really high in my recommendations there. Oh yeah, it looks like this was another double feature on February 4th. The same night I watched The Relic, I also watched a movie called The Runner. I wouldn't actually call it a movie. It's more of like an extended music video with a bunch of these weird vignettes. They sort of tell a narrative story, kind of, but it's very abstract. It was this was conceptualized and I written and directed by a band, this sort of new wave synth band called Boy Harsher. The music's really cool. They also did the soundtrack, but it's sort of a project completely conceptualized by this band. I definitely recommend it. It's worth checking out. I give it 2.5 stars just because there's really no through narrative. It's kind of just, like I said, an experimental music video short film. I do recommend watching it, but you're not going to get a really solid narrative story thing going. Just be ready for sort of a weird fever dream for about 40 minutes. You can find that on Shudder. That's The Runner from 2022. Next up on the 5th, I saw Scream 5. I don't know if you guys do this, but I go to the movies by myself a lot. I find it very relaxing, and this is one of those movies that I went and saw by myself. I haven't reviewed it yet, along with the other Scream films yet, because I want to watch it again before I review it. Usually when I watch movies at home, I can take a bunch of notes, but I didn't want to be an asshole watching this movie and taking notes, so I just watched the movie. I turned my phone off. I was fully engaged, but I want to see it again before I review it. There's a lot of good in Scream. Like I've said before, if you follow the formula of Scream, you're not really going to get a bad Scream movie. You can kind of get a silly movie or maybe, you know, a subpar Scream movie, but they're all entertaining, as was this one. But before I complete my thoughts, I want to see it again, so review coming soon. This is one that I should have reviewed. On the 13th, I watched the remake of Slumber Party Massacre. You can find this streaming all over now. I had a really good time with this one. This is I would call it a loose reimagining or loose adaptation or reimagining of the original film. I forget what year the original came out. God, that had to have been early 80s, maybe 85, 84. Kind of a classic, low-budget classic slasher movie. This one kind of flips the original premise on its ear and does something completely different. When it starts out, it kind of pulls it's not as good as Cabin in the Woods, but it kind of pulls that scenario where you think it's just going to be a direct remake and just sort of a rehash. But something happens a little bit into the movie that really adds a fresh take on it, and I would highly recommend checking out Slumber Party Massacre. The movie opens up with a really nice slasher sequence at this cabin, and a bunch of murders happen. Years later, there's another group of teens who want to go to the cabin to party, not knowing what had happened before, and a bunch of crazy shit happens. I'm not going to spoil it because this movie does put an original take on the original movie. So check that out. That's Slumber Party Massacre from 2021. Next is I Want You Back. I don't know what possessed me to watch this. Probably the two leads. I love Charlie Day and Jenny Slate? They are both great in this movie. This is a really silly rom-com, but if you like rom-coms, this is a decent one. I was gonna say this is a pretty good one, but it's an okay rom-com. The movie is about two characters played by Charlie Day and Jenny Slate. They are both madly in love with their significant others, and they both get dumped by their fiancés at around the same time, and they end up coming together to try to get each other's fiance's back. You can probably guess what happens. These movies are really predictable, but the performances from Jenny Slate and Charlie Day are enough to carry the movie, as well as a couple of other decent performances. It's just a dumb little romantic comedy. It runs a little long at 111 minutes. If you're into romantic comedies, you'll probably think it's okay. I don't really have much to say about that one. Itchy the Killer. This is one that's been sitting on my shelf for a couple years, and it's been on my watch list for years and years and years. And I finally got around to watching it. I know it's regarded as a pretty big classic by Takashi Miike. That guy's done like over 100 movies at this point. I didn't really care for this one. I found it to be really dull and boring outside of a couple decent sequences of violence that are pretty cool, like a couple decent kills. Outside of that, man, I thought this movie was really dull and extremely boring. I wouldn't recommend it, even though I know it's a classic. If you feel super compelled to watch it, check it out. In my opinion, I found it to be quite a letdown. All that hype build up over, I guess, the last 20 years, I was expecting something amazing. It didn't really do it for me, so. Next up, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Definitely not divisive at all. I think this movie was universally praised and loved. Obviously, I'm kidding. Everybody said they hated this movie. That wasn't my opinion. I actually had a fantastic time with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I did a full review for it down below. You can check that out. I don't know what all the hate is about. I would like to do almost a second video I have so much more to say about this. Particularly regarding about the complaints that a lot of horror fans had for this movie, but not other movies. This whole thing, it just doesn't make sense to me. I liked it. Just watch it. It's streaming on Netflix for free. You don't got to pay more than your subscription to Netflix to watch it. Give it a try. Amazing kills, great cinematography. It's a fucking blast, man. I don't know what people are complaining about. My AC just kicked on, so I hope that's not too loud. We're almost done here, so I'm not going to get up and turn it off. Next up, Aqua Slash. This is a ridiculous movie from 2019 about a disgruntled employee or disgruntled person who installs blades in water park rides, like slides and shit like that. So when people slide through the slides or whatever, they get hacked into a bunch of different pieces. It's super low budget. They did the best they could with the budget they had, but the performances are pretty wonky, and they really only have one setting for all these murders. So like they have to find way too many reasons to excuse people to continue to go down this one water slide. So you'd think the whole park would be rigged with like dozens of different things, but really it's just like one slide that the same people keep going down. It was just really ridiculous. If you're looking for something dumb to just kill 72 minutes, it's barely over an hour. It's worth watching. I had a good time with it. It's just very, very stupid. Next up, Ghostbusters Afterlife. Didn't I review this one? I think I reviewed it. Reviews should be down below. I actually really had I have filmed my review for this. I have yet to edit it yet. I have reviews for the first two Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters Answer the Call, so stay tuned for my thoughts on Ghostbusters Afterlife. I did like it. I didn't quite love it as much as a lot of people did. There's some issues towards the end that I didn't care for, but overall, great dose of nostalgia, really well done sequel. It pays really great and respectful homage to the original films and the original actors. Way more so than Ghostbusters 2016, I'll say that. But I'll be posting my review in the next couple days. Next up, Studio 666. This one I gave 3.5 stars. I love this movie. It's currently in theaters. You can see it. This is Foo Fighters horror movie. I did a full review for it, so check out my review down below, but I had a good time with this. It's not doing too well. That stupid J-Lo Marry Me movie outperformed this movie, which just breaks my fucking heart, man. This movie is packed with, you know, funny moments and tons of great kills, practical effects. It's like Evil Dead meet Rock and Roll Nightmare meet The Pick of Destiny. It's kind of a mashup of a bunch of different movies, but I highly suggest seeing it, and it's in the theaters right now. It is a legit horror movie. Make no mistake, it is a real movie. Surprisingly, Dave Grohl and the rest of the guys in Foo Fighters are really good at their performances in that one. It's great. We're almost done, Pete. my gummy's kicking in like a motherfucker too, so I gotta wrap this shit up before I can't talk. Finally, the last movie on our video today, and finally the last video in our, the last movie is Hellbender from 2021. So going into this video, I knew nothing about the filmmakers. I kind of looked them up after I watched the movie because the movie has a lot of cool ideas. It's basically about a mother and daughter witch or hellbender. It's super low budget, and it's really hard to describe this movie. At first, when I watched it, a lot of the scenes were hitting me as just, like I said, super low budget and kind of cringe. But once I dug into the filmmakers, who are essentially a family, a mother, daughter, and husband who all make these movies, they do everything. They write, direct, produce, edit, score. They do everything in the movie, do the music, all that shit. So after finding out that information, I sort of had a lot more respect for the movie, and I kind of want to give it another shot. They also did a movie called The Deeper You Dig, and apparently this is their 6th feature. But this movie is really weird. It's about a mother and daughter who are both witches. The mother witch kind of keeps her daughter at arm's length, doesn't let her out of the house, doesn't let her do anything because she's scared one day she will discover her powers and maybe not be able to control them. So it's them sort of battling each other, kind of a coming of age story with this daughter who doesn't understand why her mother is keeping her away from the outside world. And as the movie progresses, she sort of kind of realizes her powers and wants to venture outside of her mother's, you know, grasp. And it does some cool things towards the end. There's just a lot of scenes of kind of drawn out dialogue and metaphorical shit and a lot of like hippy type shit. I don't know. You may dig it. It's an acquired taste. It's not going to be for everyone, but it's interesting. If you're into those DIY, low budget, gritty, sort of guerrilla filmmaking, I think you'll dig it. It's pretty cool that this family can put together movies on their own, just them and a camera, do all the music, and then it ends up on Shudder to watch for all of us. So I definitely respect the filmmaking. May not be for everybody, but it's worth a watch. At least I gave it a little heart. So guys, that is it. That is everything that I watched in January and February. If you are still watching this video and you stuck around the whole time, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Are we done? I think we're done here. So guys, that is it. That is everything I watched in January and February. If you guys are still here, if you watched to the end, thank you so much. You guys are the real ones. I think that's it, guys. Subscribe to the channel, look around, watch my other videos. I'd really appreciate it. I appreciate each and every one of you who watches my videos. Thank you so much. I think we're done here, guys. Stay weird. Remember to always be yourself, and I will see you in the next one. We're done, Pete. We're done.